Hey guys, this is the Real Estate Podcast and it's your host, Alex Kaufman. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I need you to do me a solid. Hit that subscribe button on your phone if you haven't done so already, and share this episode with just one person. It's going to help us get this information out to more people to learn about entrepreneurship and real estate. Thanks. Now let's dive into today's episode.
If you have no margin, you also have no mission. Like, dude, my mission was about to run out because we were running out of money.
Yeah.
And so, I just think like that's why I want to kind of raise the ceiling for what I think is possible for Christian entrepreneurs these days. Cause man, I think we're everything about money that we're taught, which is not, I would say this, that what most of the sermons we hear about money are fear-based and are taught by pastors who also have never made any money.
All right, Ellis, it's showtime, my man. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. This is Matt Teifke, and we are excited to have Ellis here. Our podcast really kind of explores the ins and outs of entrepreneurship. We go through people's journeys and their backgrounds and kind of interview amazing people that are doing really cool things that are making an impact on different lives, on their business, for their families. We talk all things real estate, entrepreneurship. We get into whatever it is. And so we'd like to have fun here, Ellis, and try to provide as much value as we possibly can. You are doing some really cool things on the real estate side with Kingdom REI, your company, and would love to kind of dive in, man, and kind of hear about your journey, your background. And then I got a couple questions I'm particularly interested in and go from there, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The life of a entrepreneur and family man. I'm like closing closet doors and all kind of stuff. It's later in the week, man. So anyways, so pumped to be here. I love getting to speak about all these things, man, the future of real estate, my faith, and how all these things come together. Just because, I don't know, man, sometimes I feel like I'm not even supposed to be here, but God always has a plan. And, I was a pastor for about 6 years, and now I'm a full-time real estate entrepreneur. And people are like, how did you get here? And honestly, man, it was the same way I became a pastor. Like I never had plans to ever become go in full-time ministry, but my life was changed by God. I became a Christian in college, and I've always kind of had a desire to say, I'm just going to follow him and trust, that he has better plans for me. And that's kind of why I went into ministry. And then, we began to see a need for creating vehicles that could create capital and wealth. And we went into real estate, and, so here we are, man. I was just telling you before this call, like, we just got, a phone call that we're best and final on a $40 million deal in Dallas. It's like, how do you even get here to this point? And it's like, man, just one step at a time, trusting God and being bold and having faith and, showing up when you can. And so anyways, man, as much as my story can be an encouragement to others, I'd love to share as much value as I can.
Amen, brother. That's great. That's exciting on the deal. And you mentioned that you were just in Austin. Were you looking at deals here or just on vacation?
Dude, it's always a vacation in Austin, man. I love that city. No, we just closed the deal there. 110 units in the Mueller area.
Yeah.
And Class C deal. So we were just kind of getting there after close, kind of check it out and make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah. So I'll ask you a question on that in a second, but just a random thought. I'm actually having my pastor come on. We do real estate, but we'll have cannabis or crypto, and our pastor's coming on the show next week. And I'm fascinated by the operations that go on within a church. I mean, I'm running this business with a lot of different people and a lot of support. But I look at my pastor, and he's like, got capital campaigns for building the new church and making sure everything's running. I'm like, dude, this is like hardcore business leading, running a church. So I'd be interested in kind of your experience with that and how it kind of relates to real estate in general. And then the other thing I'd like to know is your existing team, if you have a team that's in place, and how everything's kind of structured to take down these deals and everything that y'all have going on.
Yeah, good question. So when I was a pastor, I was actually a missionary. So I was on the college campus. I was kind of a collegiate pastor. So like I always said, man, I watched my pastor, lead the church. I'm like, the one thing I don't want to become is a pastor, just because it is, man. It's like running. Well, what I didn't realize is like, I'm a CEO, so I think I have as many responsibilities too. But I loved kind of the organic relationship ministry that I got to do for a long time. So you're right, man. I have a ton of respect for pastors who are trying to kind of shepherd their flock and be an evangelist and teach the scriptures, and then also run an organization. It's
Right.
pretty impressive.
Right.
The thing that translated the most for me, I would say, I was truly an evangelist, you might say, kind of a disciple maker. The thing that's translated the most is communication. I mean, I don't have a real estate education besides the education I've got from being in the business the last 4 years, right? But the thing that was able to translate pretty easily is just my ability to communicate, right? Complex ideas and make them simple. I mean, trying to, help a college student who all they want to do is party and, do these, whatever, like to help them understand why living for God actually might bring them greater joy. That, trying to articulate kind of complex, maybe difficult ideas to something they understand has been something that's translated, I think, really well in being a capital raiser for real estate, real estate investing, and helping people realize why this might be a better financial investment opportunity for them and their family. So that that idea of communication, man, I think is so overlooked, dude. Like, I have a 9-month-old daughter, and I tell my wife, and I told someone this the other day, like, listen, I don't really care if she even graduates from high school. I just want her to be able to communicate effectively, because if she can master the art of communication, she will never be broke. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it is such an important skill in terms of entrepreneurship, business ownership, is if you can communicate your ideas and thoughts clearly and provide and show that you have something of value that people want to exchange value for, you'll never be poor, man.
Hey, man. Yeah, that's a challenge. It's funny, dude. I'm going through this journey myself it's this discipleship program, and I'm a sales guy to my core. And what I'm saying as far as the discipleship thing is, like, I'm a salesman for God. And so you have to figure out the best way to do that. Like for me, I'm trying to relate it to business. Like, how do I bridge that gap of exactly what you were alluding to, and not be too pushy and do it the right way? Because it is something that I believe in. And like you said, it's a way to a better life. I wholeheartedly believe that. But anyways, you mentioned capital raiser. So is that kind of your role? Like you're helping get capital for different apartment deals, multifamily, and you just constantly building those relationships to take deals down. Is that kind of how things are lined out?
Yeah, well, so I'm the CEO. I would say I'm kind of acting CEO, co-principal of our investment firm, Symphony Capital Group. We have closed on about 100 million plus of multifamily deals in 2021 and beginning of 2022 under contract now on a $40 million deal. So we're getting bigger. You know what I mean? We're raising more money. We're doing bigger deals, making bigger relationships. A lot of what our model has been in 2021 was the capital side of things. So, there's kind of two roles in this business: finding money and finding deals. What we've been good at and what we have access to is capital. And so we have kind of created a co-GP structure where guys would come to us with opportunities, and we would be able to essentially provide the capital, the equity stack, the financing, the syndication management, the investor relations role for the deal, and then carve out equity. And then, so we formed some good partnerships to be able to do that and grow our business. We've kind of done that model because we never really have had the resources or assets yet to be able to kind of build out an acquisitions side to our business. And so this deal, if we're awarded it in the Dallas area, would kind of be our first deal that we've been able to acquire on our own, would give us a lot more resources in terms of fees to our business, which would allow us to build some resources around the acquisition side of our company. So to answer your question, yes, personally, my role has been, I am the sales guy like you, right? Like attracting capital into our company, because that's how we've been able to essentially put money in our pockets and put money into the business, is raising capital. We hope to kind of become a full multifamily investment firm, but in full transparency, it just takes time to build and grow that, man. And, that's So as we're kind of making, I believe that we'll probably close on $100 to $150 million in multifamily deals on our own this year. And we'll probably be like $30 million of that equity, right, from us and our investor base. So we'll probably bring in other people to help raise money too. So that's why I love this business, man. It's such a relational collaboration business. And it's been something that we've really enjoyed.
Yeah, man. And it's everything always gets better if you're doing it the right way. It just snowballs and you get that compound effect.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of different things. I've been doing it for 13 years. And my whole goal was always like, I want to learn as much as I can about different aspects and figure out how to own real estate. I never personally got into syndicating. I have a fund that we buy like small commercial and residential. And it's not one deal, but it's a little bit more entrepreneurial in the sense of like, maybe, find a portfolio, we'll keep a few, sell a few, Airbnb a few. But one thing that I did in the past was I raised capital for two deals, and one in Dallas and one in San Antonio. And I love the concept. You're providing return, you're building relationships, and it just gets better and better. But I'm genuinely curious because I remember I was like going all in to raise capital, right? And I think I raised like 500,000 and then 500,000 again, somewhere around there for the second time. But then all my investors were like tapped out for a little bit and they had no more capital. And I'm like, man, how does that work for you when you're doing 40 million, 50 million?
Yeah.
Is it referrals? Is it these super wealthy people? They're not always putting all their capital in. Like, does that resonate or best way to
100%? No,
yeah.
our average investor is $100,000. So it's not, our company is built on, we started with friends and family, and now we're kind of in second and third degree relationships. So I don't think we've ever had $1 million. We'd love to have a couple $1 million investors, right? But no, that's not been our network. We'll build that eventually, right? But I think if you're started like we did, I was a pastor, dude. My network was 18, 19-year-olds. So I've had to literally build everything that we've done from scratch, from LinkedIn, from Facebook, Instagram, like literally from freaking scratch. And so it is, man, and totally 100%. Like I would say, even this deal that we're under contract on, we do not have the investor base yet to go raise $10 million of equity in one full swoop or like one swing, because you only have about 30 days to raise all this money.
Crazy.
So we brought in another equity partner to help us kind of fill what we are not going to be able to fill, and essentially we'll give them equity of the, whatever we would have typically ownership of that deal, we'll carve out a slice of that and give that to them for being able to provide that. And that's what we will continue to do until we're able to do everything in house.
Yeah. What is it about real estate that, what made you exactly switch, and what do you like about it? And what's your vision with what you're building?
I love everything about it, man. It's such for a guy who loves people, who loves kind of the chase, who loves building something. It's just such a fun industry, man, to be a part of. We got into it honestly because it made sense too. It was simple enough for me to understand, and we needed it at a point in my life. When I was in full-time ministry, we were kind of running out of money, and even our team was really struggling financially. And so I kind of made it a decision to say, I got to figure out this wealth game. Like I got to figure out how to create capital. And so we started with a duplex, and we did really well, but it was kind of being in the small duplex single family route where I realized this would never be able to accelerate fast enough to help us accomplish the goals that we were trying to accomplish from a wealth creation standpoint. And so that's where we learned about multifamily, because the most important number of real estate is the number of units. There's a multiplier effect. Like the only reason we did well because of our duplex is because the market around me was doing well. So the house down the street sold for a lot of money. So I'm like, time to sell, where multifamily is a business. So we're buying a business, and we're getting, when we exit that deal, it's based on a multiple of the income that's generated from that property. So our whole business strategy is, how do we increase the income in that property? And that could be through some type of value add, through expense reduction, whatever it is. And then we sell at whatever the multiple is of that market. And so it's just a way for us to be able to control or manipulate in a good way, the equity we create in real estate. And so I love it for that reason. It's very predictable. And in the way that we create wealth. I mean, I own a lot of Tesla stock, but dude, I have no idea where that's going to go. Like, I've done really well, but I could very easily do very, very poor this year, where versus real estate. Yes, in some ways we're dependent on the market at some levels, but we are able to kind of predict that out at a 10-year scale and kind of figure out how much wealth we can create in this vehicle. So I love it for that. It gives us and our investors a chance to really predictably and reliably build wealth. And so I get to, and I love the people I get to do it with. I also, though, man, like, I love there's a ministry to it. And I think that was why we originally got into real estate, is because of the ministry component. And so when we own the asset, especially in multifamily, you own it. Like, you can do whatever you want with it, right? So this building we're doing in Dallas, we're looking at ways, well, how do we own this? There's a cool amenity space with an upstairs area. It's like, well, this could be a cool place for after school programs, right? There's a downstairs area where we can then create opportunities for people to connect and get to know each other. And so there's something about that, man, that I think is inherent to who I am, right? Being a former college pastor, that idea of like building relationships, helping people connect. I love that opportunity we get to do in multifamily. So, I mean, there's very few components I don't love. Man, right now I don't love how freaking competitive it is, but in some ways I do like that, because it's that chase.
Yeah.
That like I'm the most competitive person I know. And so I love that there are 10 people that we're competing with. I love that we've already beat 5 of them. And now I got to go beat 5 more tomorrow on this call. And I'm like, okay, let's see what everybody's got,
It's such a weird process, because I never got into there's different strategies. Like, I was always like, let me figure out where nobody is and like be a little unique. And obviously there's some less scale in some aspects, and like what you're doing, you can scale it. But it's so competitive, and it's so weird just in general to me. It's like, bring your offer. All right, now bring your other offer. And I'm like, man, what is this? Like, and it's so bizarre, but it's like you said, it's competitive, and you got to get creative, and
it's the craziest process I've ever been a part of, dude.
Yeah.
And it is
like the whole, call for offers. It's like, you don't even have any offers. Sometimes you just like never know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's such a trust relationship business. They tell you there's 10, there could be 2, but I mean, I know in this environment, in this market, there is 10. And it's, you want to make sure. But the nice thing about that, dude, and why I think we're okay to maybe pay more for this deal, is like, there were 20 offers on this deal. There's 10 that were taken very seriously, meaning there were 10 that were all similar offers. There's 5 in the best and final round, meaning there must be 5 very good competitive groups in the best and final round, all with very strong offers. So my appointment on real estate, dude, I don't want to go buy a piece of real estate that no one else wants. I mean, that might be someone else's model. Sure. But dude, I want to go buy a great asset that I know there's demand for. So as soon as I buy this deal, guess what? I own it. Nobody else owns it anymore. Sure. I already have something of value that I know other people want, because we're competing with that many groups. And so I don't know, man, like if it's just you and you're just doing your own deals and you just want to go kind of find something no one else wants and make money and cash flow, that's great. Mm-hmm. But, we're also bringing in investor capital. And so we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we can get out of this deal. And we have an insurance plan, right? My insurance plan is that everyone wants to freaking own multifamily in Dallas, Texas right now. And so I know that we'll have an asset for a very long time that will only grow in value.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. It's there's just all different ways to go about real estate in general. And it's fascinating because as you know, like, you can just get as entrepreneurial as you want, and you could do this deal. And then all of a sudden in a couple of years, you're doing self-storage and mobile home parks, especially when you're on the raising capital side of things.
Yeah. Anyone's listening, the only thing I would just like, go bigger, man. Like the thing that I've learned is like, dude, it honestly gets easier the bigger you go. So like, it's harder, I think, truly, to go raise $1 million than it is to go raise 10 million, because, and I've literally done this. Like, I've raised $1 million a couple of times, and it's like, it's just, and then I'm only, because I can only bring in my investor base. So I'm calling, I'm having to get people in it, but to go raise 10 million, dude, it's now I'm going after groups. Does that make sense? Like, there's more, there's bigger money that want to be in assets like this than in like the smaller 10, 15, 20 unit type stuff. And so
absolutely,
it just is like, it's kind of crazy. I just, again, this is things I'm learning, and like, I'm understanding this game a little bit better. Is like, I think most people don't want to go bigger because they're like, well, that seems more complicated, that gets harder. And yes, in some ways, like, it is more complex, but in terms of, the equity and the, all that side of things, man, it all comes a lot easier because, again, the bigger deals we do, the more people we can bring in. It's not just me anymore, right? So we can bring in partners, and we can bring in equity groups, and then we can bring in banks, and it's just cool, man. I mean, I share all that to say, like, I don't think there's more and more, there's like levels to this game is the best way I can say it, and I feel like every about 6 months, I'm like, okay, we get to the next level. We learn what the next level is.
That's cool. Yeah, no, it's great advice, man. And it's the same with you being a broker, and you go sell a $200,000 house versus $1 million house. It's the same process.
Mm-hmm.
You make more money. So yeah, you're right. Go big if you can. I want to talk about two things that I saw on kind of your focus, and I think what you feel comfortable or you're like living. Like, you had something that said why profit matters according to the Bible. I'm super fascinated with that personally. Like, can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it matters a lot. I mean, there's well, yeah, I'll just share what I meant by that tagline in that video I think that I made. I think that came out of Matthew 25 is where I saw that. And, there's the parable of the talents. There's the parable in Matthew 25, people can go check it out. There's the parable of the talents in there. There's the parable of the oil, where the maids who run out of oil. And this idea of like margin is really significant, and profit really matters. And I think a lot of people get hung up with that because they hear profit and they're like, oh, you're taking that profit and, you're becoming greedy. It's like, that's such a one way of thinking about making money. I'm like, dude, when the master went and gave the talents to the entrepreneurs, that's what they really went. That's who they were. They were entrepreneurs. And he said, go and invest or go and do business. That's what the text says, go and do business with this money. And those who were called, who got the well done, good and faithful servant, were the one who went and multiplied the talents. Right. And so they went and created margin. They went and created profit. They went and created and added value to the world. Somehow, we don't know how they did it, but we know that they went to the world, created value enough to be able to transact and then get double their money. The one who went and just buried it in the ground was called a wicked and lazy servant, right? And so I think that's really significant, that if we're called and we've been given talents and resources, and we don't multiply those talents or resources, we're not doing well by God, right? That it is our calling as value creators, as entrepreneurs, to go into the world and create products, create services that offer value to society that people are willing to pay for, and that we use that margin to do good. Because on the second part of that verse, just so we're clear, I'm not just saying, hey, go make a bunch of money. In the parable of the 5 talents, the master calls them back and collects that money back, right? So we see very clearly that everything does belong to God, that it is not our own, that we are in this business, that we are called to, yes, go and create and build. But God says, hey, at the end, like, I'm the owner, right? Like, you're doing this for me. This is my kingdom that you're building. And so I think, man, the reason I think profit matters is like, where there, and I learned this as a missionary, just for practicality standpoint, if you have no margin, you also have no mission. Like, dude, my mission was about to run out because we were running out of money.
Yeah.
And so, I just think like that's why I want to kind of raise the ceiling for what I think is possible for Christian entrepreneurs these days. Because, man, I think we're everything about money that we're taught, which is not. I would say this, that what most of the sermons we hear about money are fear-based and are taught by pastors who also have never made any money. Does that make sense? So like, there's never a really good teacher or mentor who loves the Lord and who also understands how to make and create and multiply money. And so I think it should be part of the conversation about, yes, we don't serve two masters, God and money, but we can also go and create it and multiply it and do good with it. And I think that's missing in most of the Christian circles that I grew up in. And learning that, and now understanding, how to actually make it, keep it, protect it, multiply it, I think can make me a better steward of capital, not a worse steward. So that's kind of a summary.
Yeah, it's
of that
beautiful.
video.
I love that. Super cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So let's take it a different direction. We're looking back into history, thousands of years ago. Now the future, not necessarily thousands of years ahead, but what's real, I know you, at least I believe you kind of look into or are interested in kind of blockchain, NFTs, crypto as it relates to real estate. What's your view on all that? And what are you doing to kind of dive in on that aspect?
Totally, dude. So we just launched a new podcast called The Future of Real Estate. And I'd really highly recommend folks check that out if you're interested in these kind of topics, because it's so fascinating. This world is changing so fast, with blockchain technology and crypto. I mean, you think about a new asset, like for the first time in a century, a new asset has been created. I mean, that's pretty fascinating. Like crypto, like how does that even happen? It's kind of wild to think that a brand new asset has been, that's something really significant to even just dwell on. And to think that that won't somehow infiltrate real estate, I think is really, really silly. And I just want to be ahead of it, because I think there's opportunities here. Real estate has been for a very long time a illiquid asset, a great wealth builder, but kind of inefficient or slow in terms of transaction, right? Like, because there's a title, you got to transfer the title, and it's a very inefficient vehicle for the transfer of wealth. And I think that, and also the illiquid nature of it all. I mean, blockchain has the potential to transform all of that, right? Where you can tokenize shares of real estate. I mean, there's companies now that literally do that already, where you can own a token, or what we would call right now a share of that deal. And instead of getting a share, you would get a token on the blockchain. And then you can take that token and divide it up into 1,000 different shares and sell those to people all over the world, right? And so now your ownership in this piece of actual real estate, which was for traditionally all of history has been illiquid. Now you can go and take that and it's very liquid. So I think that's really interesting about the future of real estate. I think it opens up this entire class of people who've been kept out of real estate investing. I mean, even think about our deals, right? Like you have to have a minimum of $50,000 to invest in our deals, or you can't get access to it. That's typically the case for most syndication deals, if not more. Crowdfunding has helped with that a little bit, right? But still, most people, I think, get to my level and realize it's kind of more of a hassle to bring in less than 50 grand and not really worth it because of all the paperwork involved. And so I think you think about what the blockchain might do, it will open up this entire class of folks who now have access to an asset class that they've never been able to have access to. Think about what that does to the value of real estate. If there's now billions of dollars that now can be put into this, what does that do to asset prices? Typically, if there's more money chasing something, that causes asset prices to go up. And so, it's something that we're exploring, we're talking about, keeping our eye on. And that's why I have a podcast, just to kind of interview the brightest mind so that I can learn kind of what I don't know. Because the thing that I think I've benefited the most from that is just kind of being open-minded and learning around, being the dumbest dude in the room. So all of my podcast, everything I do is I'm the dumbest guy there, in the sense of I'm the less educated on the topic I'm trying to learn about, and I want to be surrounded by great people. And so that's kind of what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah. I love it, man. Well, when you know the scripture the way you do, you're never the dumbest guy in the room.
Yeah. I hear you, man. No, don't worry. I got the spirit in me, dog. But I just mean in the sense of
No, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
I don't know.
I know. I'm just saying, there's some real wisdom with all that. But yeah, man, we talked about the past, talked about the future. We talked about what you got going on. What else is important for you, or ways that we or our listeners can figure out how to add value for you?
It's a great question, man. I mean, we're so dialed in, dude, on owning assets. I mean, regardless of what happens with crypto, blockchain, someone's got to own the real estate, right? Someone's got to do that. And so we're very open to partner. I mean, that's how we've grown, how we've done is to partner. And so if you are a deal finder, right, you can find deals and you're in a great market, with an MSA typically over 500,000, and you want to be someone who can build relationships with brokers and find good deals, let's talk, man. We can help fund those deals. If you're an investor or you have a network of investors and you want to bring equity into deals and own some of these great assets with us, I'm going to tell you what, you cannot just go and buy assets today. You need a track record. You need a team. You need to be able to ensure, instill confidence into the seller or the broker. It's just true, dude. I don't care how much, you cannot just go buy deals in this environment. You need to be buying deals in order to go buy deals. And so if you want to be a part of those projects and you have equity or a network of equity, hit me up, dude. Let's do deals together. I mean, it's just I can't accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish on my own. And so if there are people that are like-minded and want to do bigger stuff together, I'm all ears and would love to get on a call and make that happen with folks. So, I'm on Twitter, dude. I think that's how we found each other. Don't email me because I'm not going to even give you my email, but hit me up on Twitter. I think that's where we got connected, or go to our website, symphonycapitalgroup.com. That's symphonycapitalgroup.com, and fill out a contact form there, and just kind of let me know a little more what you're looking for, and we'll get in touch.
Cool. I love it, man. Thank you so much for coming on our show. Guys, Ellis Hammond, Matt Typke, it's the Real Estate Podcast, and we always try to keep it exciting and fun. So thanks again for tuning in, and reach out if we can ever help.